been digging into court cases and lawsuits looking for the pattern involving Cleveland officers. And I uncovered the story of a Cleveland teenager with Down syndrome who was chased down by police when they mistook him for a robbery suspect.
911, what is your emergency?
I just was robbed.
A call for help sent police on the trail.
He threatened to kill me. I could probably describe him. It was a white male, about 5'8" at the most.
But who did they nab? Meet Juan Ortiz, 16 at the time. He stands 5 foot 2 inches.
I'll keep it.
And he has Down syndrome. Police handcuffed him for robbery.
I had to suffer a lot watching that. Very hard for me watching him, looking at me, trying to say something or trying to say help me, and I couldn't even do nothing.
Juan's dad, Ramon, hopelessly watched his son get arrested by 2 Cleveland cops, Brian Casimir and Dan Chrisson. With his disability, Juan had no idea what was going on. It all went down here, outside of this West Side apartment complex where the Ortiz family used to live. August 16th, 2010.
Kept hollering, "You got the wrong one. That's not right. He's not the one." But still happened.
Nina Kennedy, the manager of the complex, witnessed the whole thing.
It scared me so bad.
She says officers Casimir and Chrisson pinned Juan to a hot, running car in the heat of the summer for at least a half hour. Then she says the cops yelled at Juan's parents.
"If you can't speak English here, take your ass back to where you come from." That's pretty much what they said. But they also used the F word.
What they did, it was awful.
Juan ended up in the hospital. His injuries, minor, but the emotional trauma, much deeper. The day after, Ramon filed this complaint against the officers here with Cleveland's Civilian Police Review Board. But we found that the system to address citizen complaints like Ramon's lacks transparency and efficiency. And those complaints languish in a maze of bureaucracy and finger-pointing.
Please, if they could discipline these officers and stop them from working in the streets, I will be happy on that part.
Just 2.5 months after the incident, the review board did recommend discipline for officers Casimir and Chrisson in this charge letter dated November 9th, 2010. Here, the board called for a simple written reprimand and re-instruction. It stated that the cops handcuffed Juan and yelled to his parents, "You're lucky we didn't shoot him. Shut the F up."
That file came to the chief's office for discipline in July of the following year, 2011.
Mike McGrath was Cleveland's police chief at the time. He says it took 8 months for him to get that letter, prepared by the board's sister agency, the Office of Professional Standards, or OPS.
Why it took that long to come out of the Office of Professional Standards, I don't know.
He wouldn't know. We discovered ourselves that the review board operates under a cloud of ambiguity, and so does OPS, which investigates complaints made against police. Damon Scott leads the agency.
When anyone looks at this looks like you haven't done much of anything. Look at all these, a whole page worth of blank spaces here. No decision.
Well, that is something that my office is addressing.
These documents, which list those complaints and the status of the investigation, show the board has only ruled on 46 of 509 cases in the last 2 years.
Part of the reason that I was hired was to address some of the cases that were not investigated or that were dormant prior to my tenure.
That's what Scott told me a year ago. And 2 months ago, when we tried to ask him about the lack of improvement, he would not sit down with us.
Is there anything you would like me to use in the story or say in the story regarding why there doesn't seem to be any progress made here with complaints and the rulings on complaints?
And as for the review board,
because of the number of cases that the Office of Professional Standards receives each month, we are not able to address each case as it comes in.
Thomas Jones, the board's chairman, first claimed he and his 6 colleagues just can't keep up with the workload, then later backtracked.
So you have all of these cases, most of these cases in here that you have yet to decide on?
I don't know. I have not looked at these cases, like I said. Some of them may have been disposed of at this point, but may not have been posted.
Between the review board, OPS and Cleveland police, 5 years later, the Ortizes still wait for closure. And this charge letter still goes unanswered.
They're not doing nothing. They're not really doing nothing.
Ramon tells me the very sight of a police officer still triggers a terrifying flashback in his son.
He goes wild. He goes very wild at nighttime.
Ramon has flashbacks of his own, visions of the moment when he says the officers held his son down.
Even when I was saying to him, he's a Down syndrome, he's a child. He didn't pay attention. He seems to enjoy what he was doing.
At the time, the officers didn't know he had Down syndrome. Afterwards, we found out that he had Down syndrome.
Did this case slip through the cracks?
No, I don't believe so.
On behalf of the officers, the city says it has no comment because the case is ongoing. But for the first time, the Cleveland Police Department apologized to Juan and his family.
It was a mistake by the Division of Police.
Officers Casimir and Kristen are still on the Cleveland police force. The Ortiz family sued them 4 years ago, at the same time that former Chief McGrath tells me he was notified of the review board's decision to discipline the officers. Because the two coincided, any discipline has yet to happen, because when the lawsuit was filed, the city tells me it was their policy to hold off on discipline while all pending civil and criminal matters are settled.